When Professor Anderson expelled me from class in 2003, he said, "Medical school isn't for you, Emma. Choose another field." But when he called me in 2023, his voice sounded very different. "Dr. Chen, please, my daughter is dying. No one else can perform this surgery. Please forget the past." No. I hung up the phone and looked at my hands. These were the hands that had trembled while taking notes for years, worked day and night, and cried while reading books. Now they were the hands of a world-renowned brain surgeon who saved lives. Dr. Emma Chen. Yes, I was no longer that small, timid, constantly belittled student. But this phone call had brought back those terrifying days from 20 years ago. Those days when I was a second-year medical student at Stanford University School of Medicine. "Chen, are you late again?" Professor Richard Anderson's voice echoed throughout the lecture hall. As I rushed to take my seat, 200 students were staring at me. I had worked until 3 a.m. the night before because I had to work during the day. My family couldn't support me. I had to earn every penny myself. "I'm sorry, Professor Anderson. Traffic." "Traffic? Are you going to hide behind the same excuse every day?" "Medicine is a serious profession, Chen. It's not a game." My cheeks were burning. Being scolded like that in front of everyone made me feel a little smaller every time. But I had to endure it. I would endure anything for this dream. Professor Anderson was the head of neurosurgery, Stanford's most prestigious department. He was in his mid-50s, tall, with white hair, and always wore a suit. His approach to students was cold and distant. He was especially harsh towards students like me, who were struggling financially and had to work. Later in the class, he asked a question about neuroanatomy. I raised my hand because I knew the answer. I had studied this topic for hours the night before. Chen explained the anatomical location and function of the 4 ventricles in the brain. I stood up and began to speak confidently. "Professor Anderson, the lateral ventricles are located in each hemisphere." "Stop!" he shouted. "You can't even answer such a simple question correctly. Are you following a compressed schedule or something? What are you doing instead of studying at night?" I was actually giving the correct answer, but he didn't even listen to me. The other students were watching curiously. Jason Williams, the richest kid in the class, was smiling as he watched the scene unfold. His father was a famous heart surgeon and a close friend of Professor Anderson. "I'm so sorry, Professor." "Sorry isn't enough, Chen. If this program is too much for you, maybe you should consider another major. Nursing, for example, might be more suitable for your level." The laughter in the classroom broke my heart. Nursing is a wonderful profession, but that's not what he meant. He was looking down on me, dismissing my potential. After class, as I was walking down the hallway, Jason Williams came up to me. "Emma, I'm so sorry for you. Anderson is a bit harsh, but he's right. This program is really tough. Maybe he's right. You should consider another field." "Jason, I can do this. I just need a little more time." "Look, Emma," he said with that arrogant tone of his, "my dad always says that medical school is only for a certain type of person. You're hard-working, but, well, that might not be enough." When I got home from work that evening, I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a tired, exhausted girl who had lost hope. Maybe they were right. Maybe chasing this dream was pointless. But then I remembered my mother's voice. She had immigrated to the U.S. from China without knowing a word of English. "Emma," she would say, "success doesn't come easy, but you can do it. You are very strong." That night, I made up my mind. No one was going to make me give up on my dream. A few weeks later, as midterm exams approached, we decided to form study groups. Jason Williams' group was the most popular because his dad had access to old exam questions. I wanted to join the group. "Jason, can I join your study group?" "Emma, to be honest, the group is full. Maybe you can find another group?" But I knew no one else would want me. Professor Anderson's constant scolding had caused the other students to stay away from me. They acted as if failure was contagious. When the midterm exam came, I was nervous because I had prepared on my own, but I did my best. When the exam results were announced, I had received an 87. It wasn't a bad grade, but Jason Williams had received a 95. When Professor Anderson announced the results, he said, "You see, this is the difference between serious work and good preparation. Williams, excellent performance. Chen, his eyes found me. There are areas that need improvement." At that moment, I felt very unfair. 87 wasn't a bad grade, but Professor Anderson was always targeting me. It was as if he didn't want me to succeed. After class, I went to his office. "Professor Anderson, how can I improve my performance?" "Chen, sit down." He shuffled the papers on his desk. "We need to have a serious talk. Your performance this semester has been low." "But Professor, I'm above average. On the last exam, Emma, this isn't just about grades. Your attitude, your motivation, your commitment to this program are questionable. You're constantly late. Your questions in class are superficial, and you're not integrating into the study groups." "I have to work, Professor, that's why I'm sometimes late, but—" "That's it." He slammed his fist on the desk. "That attitude. Medical school requires full-time commitment. If you need to work outside the school, maybe this program isn't for you." My eyes filled with tears, but I was determined not to cry. "Professor Anderson, this is my dream. I'm working hard, and I know I can do it." "Dreams aren't enough, Chen. You have to be realistic. There are 200 students in your class right now. Only 50 will be accepted into the neurosurgery program. Do you think you're one of those 50, given your current situation?" I sat silently. I had so much to say, but I couldn't bring myself to say it. "Look, Emma, I don't want to put you down, but sometimes it's best to be realistic. Maybe family medicine, maybe nursing. Those are valuable professions too. Not everyone can be a brain surgeon." When I left his office that day, my spirit was shattered. But at the same time, I felt a burning anger inside me. This man didn't even know me. He didn't see my potential. He was making his decision based solely on my appearance and financial situation. At the end of my sophomore year, it was time to apply for summer internships. The neurosurgery internship at Stanford Hospital was the most prestigious and critical for my career. I prepared my application letter very carefully. My grades were much better now. With an average of 89, I asked Professor Davis for a reference letter. He was fairer to me. But when the application results were announced, my name wasn't on the list. Jason Williams was there, Michael Thompson was there, Sarah Rodriguez was there, but I wasn't. I went to Professor Anderson's office. "Professor, can I get some information about my internship application?" "Ah, Chen, yes. To be honest, your application was not accepted." "Why?" "My grades improved. My reference letter was strong." "Emma, the internship positions are very competitive. We only select the best candidates. Your profile was not sufficient." "But in what criteria did I fall short? I need to understand." "Chen," his voice hardened, "the decision has been made. It's not up for discussion. You should look for other internship options." Later, I found out that Jason Williams' father played golf with Professor Anderson. Michael Thompson's grandfather had made a large donation to the hospital. Nepotism was everywhere, but I didn't have the power to fight it. That summer, I did an internship at a small clinic. It wasn't prestigious, but I learned a lot. Dr. Maria Santos, the clinic's chief physician, trusted me and gave me opportunities.
"Emma, you're very talented. Your knowledge and curiosity about the nervous system are impressive. Why don't you consider neurosurgery?"
"Actually, that's my dream, Dr. Santos. But Professor Anderson, Richard Anderson, I know him. He can be a bit old-fashioned. But you need to chart your own course, Emma. No one can limit your potential." That conversation gave me a lot of strength. Maybe everything at Stanford was working against me, but it wouldn't stop me. At the beginning of my third year, I returned more determined than ever. I had grown accustomed to Professor Anderson's behavior and tried not to take it personally. But he didn't stop targeting me. One day, we were presenting cases in front of the jury. My case was a 45-year-old male patient with suspected brain tumor. I had spent hours preparing, researching every detail. "Chen, begin your case." "Thank you, Professor." A 45-year-old male patient, James Cooper, presented with severe headaches and blurred vision that began 2 weeks ago. Throughout the presentation, Professor Anderson constantly interrupted, asked questions, and tried to make me uncomfortable. But I was prepared and was able to answer every question. "What is your treatment plan, Chen?" Professor Anderson, according to the MRI scan, there is a 3.2 centimeter lesion in the left parietal lobe. Considering the localization and the patient's symptoms, surgical resection is the most appropriate option. However, a stereotactic biopsy can be performed first to confirm the diagnosis. "Stop," he shouted. The other professors on the panel were taken aback. "Chen, you're only a third-year student. Discussing such complex surgical procedures is beyond your level." Dr. Williams interjected from the panel. "Actually, Richard, the student's approach is quite logical. He's thought through the surgical planning well." Professor Anderson gave him a sharp look. "Michael, we're here to help students understand their realistic limits. Chen's ambitious plans show that he's misjudged his own capabilities." After the presentation, the other jury members congratulated me. Dr. Williams came over to me. "Emma, that was an excellent presentation. Your ability to think at this level is truly impressive." But Professor Anderson's grade was much lower than the others. He gave me a B while the other professors recommended an A. On the way home that day, I wondered, why is this man targeting me so much? What is he trying to do? At the end of my third year, there was the most important exam, the comprehensive neuroscience exam. This exam was the most critical factor in getting accepted into the neurosurgery program. I had worked all year for it. When the day of the exam arrived, I felt prepared. It was a challenging 200-question exam that would last 4 hours. The questions were really tough, but I was prepared. Anatomy, physiology, pathology, pharmacology. I had studied every subject in depth. I managed my time well and was able to answer all the questions. 2 weeks later, the results were announced. A crowd had gathered in front of the bulletin board in the hallway. I slowly approached and scanned the list. Jason Williams, 94. Michael Thompson, Sarah Rodriguez, 89. Emma Chen. I froze. 72? That couldn't be right. I felt like I had done really well on the exam. There had to be a mistake. I rushed to Professor Anderson's office. "Professor Anderson, there must be a mistake in my exam grade." "Mistake, Chen? Your grade is correct." "But that's impossible. The exam went really well." I answered all the questions. "Emma, feeling and actual performance are not the same thing. Your answers were superficial. There was no depth." "Can I see my paper? Which questions did I get wrong?" "Chen," he slammed the desk, "this grade is final. There's no room for discussion. You need to accept it." But something wasn't right. I had performed well on that exam, and a 72 average made getting into the neurosurgery program nearly impossible. That evening, I called Dr. Maria Santos. I explained the situation. "Emma, this is very strange. You've proven time and again that you're knowledgeable in those subjects. Have you considered requesting an official review?" "How can I do that?" "The university has an academic justice committee. There's an appeal process for exam grades. But be careful. You'll need strong evidence." The next day, I filed an appeal with the Academic Justice Committee. I requested that my exam be reevaluated. Dean Patricia Morrison was the committee chair. She was a middle-aged, friendly woman. "Emma, this is a serious allegation. You're challenging Professor Anderson's evaluation." "Yes, Dean Morrison. The grade I received does not reflect my exam performance. I want an objective reevaluation." "All right. Your exam will be reevaluated by 2 independent professors in a blind review. Whatever the outcome, it will be final." I waited 2 weeks, the longest 2 weeks of my life. Finally, I was called to Dean Morrison's office. "Emma, we have the results. The independent review committee scored your exam as an 8. My breath caught in my throat. 87. That was a huge difference. "But what does this mean, Dean Morrison?" "It means there was a serious error in the original grading. Your grade will be officially corrected to 87. Additionally, this matter will be subject to a separate investigation." I was so happy at that moment that I started crying. Not just because of the grade correction, but because I had proven myself right against injustice. But this victory was preparing me for a bigger battle. Professor Anderson now saw me as an enemy. At the beginning of my senior year, applications for the neurosurgery program opened. My grades were excellent, 3.7 GPA, my MCAT score was high, and I had strong recommendation letters. But there was one problem. The head of Stanford's neurosurgery program was Professor Anderson, and his approval was critical in the admissions process. At the application meeting, we sat with the other candidates. Professor Anderson began speaking. This year, we received 47 applications for our neurosurgery program. Only 8 will be accepted. The selection criteria are academic performance, research experience, and program fit. After his presentation, individual interviews would take place. When it was my turn, my heart was racing. Chen, sit down. I reviewed your application. Thank you, Professor Anderson. Your academic performance is acceptable, but I have serious concerns. I felt a chill. What kind of concerns, Professor? Regarding program compatibility, neurosurgery requires working under extreme stress. Your past performance shows inconsistencies. What inconsistencies? Constant tardiness, focus issues due to outside commitments, and difficulties with teamwork. These accusations were completely unfounded. I hadn't been late once in the past 2 years, and my grades had been steadily improving. Professor Anderson, I haven't been late once in the past 2 years. My grades have been steadily improving, and Chen, this isn't just about technical performance. There are personality and attitude factors. A neurosurgeon must be calm, decisive, and able to work well within a team. I possess those qualities. During my internship with Dr. Santos, Dr. Santos runs a small clinic. What we're talking about here is a world-renowned program. Our standards are very high. The rest of the interview followed the same pattern. He tried to refute every answer I gave and downplay every achievement. Finally, I stood up. Professor Anderson, may I ask you a question? Of course. What qualities do you think I need to be suitable for this program? He laughed. A mocking laugh. Chen, that's not something you can change. This job is for some people and not for others. You're in the second category. At that moment, I understood. This man would never accept me. I didn't know exactly why. Maybe it was my race. Maybe it was my socioeconomic status. Maybe he just didn't like me. But one thing was certain. I would never study neurosurgery at Stanford under his supervision. I thought about it a lot that night. Should I stay at Stanford and apply to other programs, or should I transfer? I spoke with Dr. Santos. Emma, you are very talented. Maybe another university would be a better fit. Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, all excellent programs. But transferring is risky, Dr. Santos. And I don't have much time. Emma, sometimes you have to take risks. I believe you can do this. You just need to be in the right environment. In the end, I made my decision. I would apply to transfer to Johns Hopkins. I didn't know anyone in Baltimore, and I would be starting from scratch, but at least I would have a fair chance. My transfer application was accepted. During my last week at Stanford, I attended my final classes. In Professor Anderson's class, I saw him for the last time. After class, he came over to me. Chen, I heard you're transferring. Yes, Professor Anderson. Johns Hopkins, right? It's a good school, but it won't be easy there either. Maybe this will be a lesson for you. A lesson in what, Professor? In being realistic. Not everyone can do everything. Emma, some dreams are just dreams. At that moment, there were so many things I wanted to say to him about the injustice, the prejudice, the bullying he had subjected me to, but I thought it would be better to stay silent. Professor Anderson, if our paths cross again one day, we'll talk then. He smiled. Yes, Chen. Maybe we'll meet again in 20 years. I wonder what you'll be doing then. I gathered my things and left the room. That day was my last day at Stanford, but it was also the beginning of my real journey. As I walked down the hallway, I made a promise to myself, I will return one day, and then I will show you all who I am. But at that moment, I had no idea how that would happen. I was just determined. With Professor Anderson's words, "You'll never make it," echoing in my ears, I set off for Baltimore. At that moment, I couldn't even imagine that 20 years later he would call me, beg me, and say, "Let's forget the past." But life sometimes brings you the most unexpected things. And this was just the beginning. When I arrived in Baltimore, I had 2 suitcases and $3,000. The Johns Hopkins campus wasn't as glamorous as Stanford, but I felt a different energy here. There were people here who were really working hard and fighting. On my first day, I met with Dean Robert Thompson. He was in his 60s, a warm, friendly man. It was very different from the cold atmosphere at Stanford. Emma, I've reviewed your file. I understand that you had some problems transferring from Stanford. You're going to have a fresh start here. All that matters to us is your performance and motivation. Thank you, Dean Thompson. I won't disappoint you. I'm sure you won't. But I should warn you, Johns Hopkins isn't easy. Especially our neurosurgery program is very intense. Are you ready? I'm ready. My first class was neuroanatomy, with Professor David Martinez. He was in his 40s, energetic, and loved his students. When he entered the classroom on the first day, he said, "Friends, no one judges anyone here. I don't care about your past, your family, or how much money you have in your pocket. The only thing that matters is how hard you work and how much you care about your patients." Those words gave me a lot of strength. I had been judged constantly at Stanford. My classmates were also different. Marcus Johnson was a black student from Detroit whose parents were factory workers. Lisa Rodriguez was from Puerto Rico and would be the first doctor in her family. Jennifer Walsh came from a small town. We were all fighting the same fight. Emma, are you from Stanford? Wow, that's prestigious, Marcus said. Prestige isn't everything, I said. What matters is what you learn. The first semester was really hard. Johns Hopkins standards were very high, but they were fair. You got what you put in. In Professor Martinez's classes, we constantly asked questions, debated, and analyzed cases. At Stanford, we just listened and took notes. Chen, what is the most critical neurological risk in this patient? Professor Martinez, brainstem compression. If the edema increases, it could affect the respiratory center. Excellent. What's your treatment approach? Emergency decompression surgery, followed by anti-edema therapy. Very well thought out. Keep it up. For the first time, I felt genuine appreciation from a professor. Not just empty praise, but sincere. At the beginning of my second year, Professor Martinez invited me to join his research project. Emma, we're working on new treatment methods for brain tumors. Would you like to join us?
Of course, Professor. What will I be doing?
Lab work, literature review, patient data analysis. It's very intense, but educational. At the time, I was working 16 hours a day. I'd go to the lab at 6 a.m. and stay until 10 p.m., including weekends. Our research focused on a new immunotherapy approach for glioblastoma treatment. In 6 months, we wrote a 2,000-page paper, and surprisingly, it was accepted by the Journal of Neurosurgery. Emma, this is your first research paper, and it was published in a top-tier journal. That's truly amazing. Professor Martinez was very happy. I couldn't believe it either. After being underestimated at Stanford for 4 years, I was now publishing in a prestigious journal. When the article was published, I was invited to various conferences. My first presentation was at the American Association of Neurological Surgeons conference. I was going to present in front of 3,000 surgeons. I was very nervous, but Professor Martinez supported me. Emma, you are one of the best people who knows this subject. Just tell them what you know. The presentation went very well. There were questions and discussions. A few famous surgeons came up to me. Dr. Chen, that was very impressive work. Which university did you attend? I'm a student at Johns Hopkins. That's great. It's very difficult to do such work at your age. Congratulations. That day, my confidence was completely restored. I knew then that I could truly be successful. By the end of my 4th year, it was time to apply for neurosurgery residency. Johns Hopkins program was excellent, but highly competitive. Dr. Patricia Wilson was the program director. She was in her 50s, a very experienced surgeon. Emma, your file is very strong. Your research grades and references are excellent. But there's something I'm curious about. Why did you transfer from Stanford? I had been expecting this question. I decided to be honest. Dr. Wilson, I had some issues with certain professors at Stanford. I felt I wasn't receiving objective evaluations. I found a more fair environment at Johns Hopkins. I understand. Unfortunately, these things happen. Here, we only look at your talent, and you are very talented. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Emma, you have been accepted into our program. A challenging 7-year journey is about to begin. Are you ready? My eyes filled with tears. I'm ready, Dr. Wilson. I won't disappoint you. Neurosurgery residency was really tough. The first year we worked 80 hours a week. On call days, I was at the hospital for 36 hours straight. But I loved it. Every case, every surgery, every patient was a new learning opportunity. My first surgery was a simple removal of a subcutaneous mass. My hands were shaking, but the resident doctor, Dr. Kevin Blake, guided me. Emma, stay calm. Keep your hands steady. This is the first of thousands of surgeries you'll perform. The surgery was successful. My patient, 45-year-old Linda Johnson, was very satisfied. Doctor, thank you so much. Your hands are so gentle. I can't describe the happiness I felt in that moment. I was touching people's lives, helping them. In the second year, more complex cases began to arrive. Brain tumors, aneurysm surgeries, spinal cord surgeries. Dr. Amanda Foster was one of the most experienced surgeons. She became my mentor. Emma, surgery isn't just about technical skill. It's about decision-making ability, thinking under pressure, teamwork. You need to develop all of these.
I learned a lot from her. Surgical techniques, patient management, ethical issues.
In my third year, I had my first major case. A young mother, Sarah Williams, 28 years old. She had a large tumor in her brain, very close to the speech center. Dr. Chen, Sarah said, if I have the surgery, will I lose my ability to speak? Sarah, there's a risk, but we'll be very careful. If the tumor continues to grow, it will be more dangerous. I understand. I trust you. The surgery lasted 8 hours. It was microsurgery, requiring millimeter precision. Dr. Foster was by my side, but I did most of the work.
Emma, you're doing great. We removed 95% of the tumor without damaging the speech center.
When Sarah woke up after the surgery, her first words were, "Doctor, I can hear you." Her ability to speak was completely preserved. That day, I truly felt like a surgeon. Throughout my residency, I continued my research. My second paper was on pediatric brain tumors. It was published in Lancet Neurology. I was becoming a recognized name at conferences. I was gaining a reputation as a young but brilliant surgeon. Dr. Martinez called me one day. "Emma, I've received an offer from Harvard. They want you for a research fellowship." Harvard? Really? Yes, one of the world's most prestigious brain surgery centers. But the decision is yours. I thought about it a lot. Harvard was a huge opportunity, but Johns Hopkins was my home. In the end, I decided to accept. In 2011, I moved to Harvard. There, I would be working with Dr. Michael Stevens. He was one of the pioneers in the use of artificial intelligence in brain surgery worldwide. Dr. Chen, I've read your papers. They're very impressive. We'll be doing groundbreaking work together here. The 2 years at Harvard were a turning point in my career. We worked on AI-assisted brain surgery. The system we developed provided real-time imaging and risk analysis during surgery. Thanks to this system, safer and more precise surgeries became possible. I used the system during the first test surgery. Robert Miller, a 52-year-old patient with a highly risky brain tumor, was the patient. Dr. Chen, the system is showing the exact location of the tumor and creating a risk map, said the technician. The surgery went perfectly. Thanks to the system, we were able to remove the tumor completely with no complications. This work was published as the cover article in Nature Medicine and gained worldwide recognition. As my fellowship at Harvard was coming to an end, I received offers from 3 different universities. 1, Stanford University, assistant professor position. 2, Johns Hopkins, associate professor. 3, Mayo Clinic, department head. I was very surprised when the offer came from Stanford. Professor Anderson was still there, but he had stepped down from the department chair position. The offer was brought by Dr. Helen Rodriguez, the new department head. "Dr. Chen, your work would be a great asset to our department. Stanford wants you back." Interesting, they told me I wasn't wanted here 10 years ago. Those days are behind us, Dr. Chen. You are now one of the brightest young surgeons in the world. I turned down the Stanford offer and chose to return to Johns Hopkins. That was my real home. In 2013, I returned to Johns Hopkins as an associate professor. I was 30 years old and had my own lab. My first students were very excited. Dr. Chen, it's an honor to work with you. Everyone, there's no hierarchy here. We're all learning, we're all growing. I built my research team, 5 PhD students, 3 postdocs, 2 technicians. It was a very dynamic team. Our first major project was on brain implants for Alzheimer's patients. This field was very new and very risky. Dr. Chen, this project is very ambitious. If it fails, it will affect your career, said Dean Thompson. Dean Thompson, science progresses through taking risks. I'm ready to take that risk. We worked intensely for 2 years. The first patient trials began in 2015. My first patient was Margaret Foster, a 68-year-old woman with severe Alzheimer's disease. Doctor, will this implant help me regain my memories?
Margaret, I can't guarantee it, but it shows promise.
The implant surgery was successful. 3 months later, Margaret showed significant improvement. Her short-term memory strengthened, and she began recognizing family members. Dr. Chen, it's a miracle. My mother hasn't recognized me this clearly in 2 years, said her daughter. This success made headlines worldwide. CNN, BBC, and the New York Times requested interviews. Dr. Chen, this technology is giving hope to millions of Alzheimer's patients, said the CNN reporter. This is just the beginning. There is still a lot of work ahead of us. In 2017, I earned the title of full professor. I was only 34 years old and the youngest neurosurgery professor in Johns Hopkins history. My speech at the promotion committee was very emotional. Dear colleagues, 14 years ago, I came here in a very different situation. I was rejected, crushed, and had lost all hope. Johns Hopkins didn't just give me an education, it gave me faith. After the meeting, Dr. Martinez came up to me. Emma, I'm so proud of you. You've become a true role model. After becoming a professor, national and international invitations increased. I gave talks at centers such as the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, and UCLA. In 2018, I was the keynote speaker at the European Brain Surgery Conference. I spoke in front of 5,000 surgeons. The fusion of the brain and technology is shaping the future of medicine, I said, but we must never forget that the patient is at the center. In 2019, I opened a new field, robotic systems in pediatric brain surgery. Pediatric patients require a much more delicate approach. My first test surgery with the system was on 6-year-old Lily Thompson. She had a very rare brain tumor. Dr. Chen, will my daughter recover? Her mother asked. We will do everything we can. Our new technology is very promising. Thanks to the robotic system, we were able to work with 2mm precision. The surgery lasted 6 hours, but went perfectly. Lily is now 12 years old, completely healthy and attending school. She keeps sending me thank you cards. This work had a huge impact in the field of pediatric neurosurgery. In 2020, I received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Pediatric Neurosurgery Society. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I also began working in the field of telemedicine. We developed a remote surgical consultation system. Dr. Chen, thanks to this system, we can now reach patients in small towns, said Dr. Sarah Kim from my team. During the pandemic, we provided remote consultations to over 500 patients and expedited the treatment of many emergency cases. In 2021, I received the Young Neurosurgeon of the Year award from the World Federation of Neurosurgical Societies. This award is given to only one person each year. My speech at the award ceremony. This award is not just for me, but for everyone who believed in me, especially the Johns Hopkins family. If a young surgeon is watching me, know this, fight for your dreams, and don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. During this period, I started getting a lot of media attention. Time magazine included me in its Healthcare Heroes list. I was on Forbes's 30 under 30 list, actually 38, but I was still considered young. In 2022, I made a huge decision. I decided to open my own private clinic. The Chen Neurosurgical Institute would work in partnership with Johns Hopkins. Our clinic only took the most challenging cases. Patients that other hospitals deemed hopeless came to us. In the first year, we treated 200 patients. Our success rate was 94%, far above the industry average. I began to be referred to as a miracle worker in the media, but I was just using technology and experience effectively. During this time, I was also following developments at Stanford. Professor Anderson had retired in 2020 and subsequently began experiencing health issues. His wife passed away from a heart attack in 2021. He has one child, an 8-year-old daughter named Emma Anderson. Ironically, her name was the same as mine. In late 2022, his daughter began experiencing serious health issues. It started with headaches, then seizures. Doctors at Stanford conducted tests. The results were devastating: a very rare and aggressive brain tumor, diffuse midline glioma. This type of tumor is extremely difficult to treat. There are very few surgeons in the world specializing in this field, and I was one of the world's leading experts in that field. In March 2023, that call came. "Dr. Chen, this is Richard Anderson from Stanford. I need to speak with you." His voice sounded different. Old, tired, helpless. "My daughter Emma, she's very ill. Brain tumor. The doctors at Stanford said there's no hope, but I researched, and you're the best surgeon in this field." The man who had expelled me from class 20 years ago, who had told me I would never become a surgeon, was now asking for my help. "Professor Anderson, can you send me the case details? I'll review them and get back to you." When I reviewed the files, the situation was truly dire. 8-year-old Emma Anderson was battling an extremely rare tumor, and the chances of survival were very low. But it wasn't impossible. The combination of my newly developed robotic system and immunotherapy offered hope. I called Professor Anderson back. "Professor Anderson, your daughter's condition is very serious, but there are methods we can try." "Dr. Chen, please, I'll do anything you ask. My daughter is everything to me." At that moment, I felt a mix of emotions. This man had caused me so much pain, but now he was a desperate father trying to save his dying daughter. "Professor Anderson, bring the patient to Baltimore. We'll assess the case and develop the best treatment plan." "Really, Dr. Chen? I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me now. Let's focus on getting your daughter better first." After hanging up the phone, I thought for a long time. The moment I had waited for over 20 years had finally come, but the emotions I was feeling were very different from what I had expected. There was anger, but also compassion. There was a sense of justice, but also professional responsibility. In the end, I made my decision. I would save little Emma Anderson. Not just for my professional duty, but for my duty as a doctor and as a human being. But in this process, I would also confront Professor Anderson. We would discuss everything that had happened in the past. The final chapter of a 20-year struggle was about to begin. The week Professor Anderson was due to arrive in Baltimore, the atmosphere at the hospital was very different. Nurses, assistant doctors, even the cleaning staff were aware of this special case. "Dr. Chen, we've prepared a VIP suite for the patient from Stanford," said head nurse Margaret Collins. "We've also taken security precautions in case there's media interest." "Margaret, this is a regular patient for us. We'll follow our pediatric oncology protocol. No special treatment." But of course it wasn't normal. The young girl from 20 years ago, now the world-renowned surgeon Emma Chen, treating her former professor's daughter. It was like a Hollywood script. Dr. Sarah Kim, my closest colleague, was aware of the situation. "Emma, are you really ready for this? This isn't just a medical case. It's going to be emotionally intense." "Sarah, I'm a doctor. I've learned to wear an emotional armor. I'm here for the little girl. Nothing else matters." But deep down I knew it wouldn't be easy. That Sunday morning I was waiting at the hospital entrance. At 10:00 a.m., the cars arrived. A black BMW X5 with California license plates. When the door opened, Professor Anderson stepped out first. He was 55 years old 20 years ago. Now he was 75. His hair was gray and his back was slightly hunched, but his arrogant demeanor remained the same. Then little Emma came out. She was 8 years old, with blonde hair and blue eyes, a very beautiful girl. But her face was pale, and her eyes showed the fatigue of illness. Finally, a woman came out. She was in her 40s, elegantly dressed, and looked professional. Dr. Chen, Professor Anderson came over to me. His voice was hoarse. "I'm Richard Anderson. This is my daughter Emma, and this is my sister Patricia." I made eye contact with the little girl. She looked at me with innocent, hopeful eyes.
"Hello, Emma. I'm Dr. Chen. We'll be talking with you in detail."
"Doctor, will you make me better?" little Emma asked. At that moment, my heart ached. It was so hard to be professional in the face of such innocence. "Emma, we'll do everything we can. You're a very strong girl, aren't you?" "Yes. My grandfather always says I'm very strong." I looked at Professor Anderson. His eyes were filled with tears. I could see how worried this stern man was for his daughter. "Professor Anderson, let's admit your daughter to the pediatric ward first. We'll discuss the details later." After settling little Emma in the room, I conducted a thorough examination, MRI scans, blood tests, neurological tests. The tumor was in a really bad spot. It was very close to the brainstem and continuing to grow. It was understandable why the doctors at Stanford had called it hopeless. "Emma," I called out to the little girl, "we're going to do some tests that are like games, okay?" "Okay, doctor. I'm very smart. I'll pass all the tests." During the neurological examination, I noticed mild weakness in the left side of her motor functions. There were small defects in her field of vision. The tumor was progressing. Dr. Chen, Patricia Anderson, the girl's aunt, came over to me. "Is there really any chance?" "Mrs. Anderson, the situation is very serious, but our new treatment methods are promising. I need more tests before I can say anything for sure." That evening, after little Emma had gone to sleep, Professor Anderson and I talked privately. We sat in the hospital cafeteria. It was 11 p.m., and the place was quiet. Professor Anderson looked very tired. "Dr. Chen, first of all, I don't know how to thank you. Coming here, Professor Anderson, I'm a doctor. I do my best for every patient." Silence. We both knew this conversation was inevitable. "Emma," he said, "about what happened 20 years ago." "Professor Anderson," I interrupted, "there's no point in talking about the past now. What matters is your daughter's treatment." "No," he said firmly. "We need to talk. I admit that I was unfair to you back then." For the first time, I heard something resembling an apology from this man. "Unfair, Professor Anderson? You belittled me, you mocked me, you tried to sabotage my career." "I know, and I'm very sorry." Sorry is an easy word. Where was that regret back then? He bowed his head. "You're right, I was a different person back then. Arrogant, prejudiced, unfair." "And now? Did you change because your daughter got sick?" "Partly yes," he said honestly, "but the change had already begun. I was following your successes. Every award you won, every publication, I saw how wrong I was." These words surprised me. He had been following me. "The guilt I feel toward you has been eating away at me for years, Emma. But I never had the courage to apologize. Because you knew it wouldn't change the outcome." "Yes, but now, my daughter is dying. And the only person who can save her is the young girl whose dreams I stole." His eyes filled with tears. Seeing this tough man so broken affected me too. "Professor Anderson, your daughter won't die. I'll do everything I can." "Why? Why are you helping me?" "Because I'm not like you. I didn't become a doctor to seek revenge. I became one to help people." The next day, a comprehensive testing program began for little Emma. Genetic analysis, immunology panel, 3D brain imaging. "Dr. Chen," little Emma asked, "why are these machines so loud?" "Because they're taking very detailed pictures of your brain, Emma. You're a very special girl, so we want to get the best pictures possible." "Am I like a famous model?" "Exactly." I laughed. This girl's positive energy was infecting the entire team. The test results started coming in. The tumor's genetic profile was identified, H3K27M mutation positive, typical diffuse midline glioma. Dr. Kim came over to me. "Emma, the genetic profile is very aggressive, but our new immunotherapy protocol was designed for this type of mutation. Sarah, what are our chances of success?" With traditional methods, 5–10%. With our new protocol, maybe still low, but at least there was hope. On the third evening, Professor Anderson wanted to talk again. Emma, I want to show you something. He pulled an old newspaper clipping from his briefcase. It was from 2021, announcing that I had received the World Neurosurgery Achievement Award.
I've carried this in my wallet ever since that day, he said. Every time I see you, I remember how big a mistake I made.
Why, Professor Anderson, what does this mean to you? Pride, he said surprisingly. That my former student is so successful. Of course, there's also shame for what I did to you. Pride? You never saw me as your student. You're wrong, Emma. You were a very smart student. I could see that. Then why? A long silence. Finally, he spoke. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? Of students like you. Hardworking, determined, ambitious. You threatened our comfort. What do you mean? Emma, Stanford is an elite school. Most of the students are from wealthy families. They're easy to control because they have something to lose. But you were different. I had things to lose too. My dreams? Yes, but you were more determined. You worked harder. The comfort of the other students bothered you. You questioned our system. For the first time, I understood the real reason. So the reason you targeted me was because I was a threat to your system.
Yes.
And that was very wrong. You came to change that system, and I was trying to protect it. So what's the result? Did the system change? Yes, Emma, your success changed many things. Stanford is now much fairer in student selection, evaluation, opportunity distribution. Too late. I know, but at least for future generations. This conversation eased my 20-year-old anger a little, but it didn't make me forget. On the fourth day, we discussed the treatment plan with the entire team. Dr. Chen, said Dr. Kim, we have 3 options. 1. Traditional surgery, PAR radiation therapy, chemotherapy. 2. Robotic surgery, immunotherapy. 3. PRE, experimental gene therapy, immunotherapy. Risk-benefit analysis. Option 1, 10% success rate, low risk. Option 2, 45% success rate, moderate risk. Option 3, 60% success rate, high risk. It was a tough decision. The third option was the most promising but also the riskiest. I discussed the situation with Professor Anderson. Professor Anderson, we have 3 options. I explained the situation in detail. His face grew increasingly tense. Dr. Chen, I'll leave the decision to you. You're the expert, you know best. No, Dad, you have to make the decision. I'm just giving my opinion. What is your recommendation? The third option. The risk is high, but so is the chance of success. Then, let's do it. I'll do anything for Emma. Before the treatment decision, I spoke with little Emma alone. Emma, we're going to perform a difficult treatment on you. It might cause some pain. Doctor, I'm a strong girl. I can handle the pain.
I know.
You're very brave. Dr. Chen, may I ask you a question? Of course. Do you know my grandfather? He always talks about you. I felt a chill. How does he talk about you? He says he's very sorry, that he did something bad to you, but that he loves you very much. These innocent words broke my heart. Emma, your grandfather's past doesn't matter. What matters now is you. But my grandfather is very sorry. Maybe you won't be angry with him. This 8-year-old girl was wiser than many adults. Emma, I'm not angry with your grandfather. I just have complicated feelings. I understand. Adults always have complicated feelings. Intensive preparations for the surgery began. My team consisted of 8 people. The chief surgeon, Dr. Sarah Kim, assistant surgeon, Dr. Michael Torres, anesthesiologist, Jennifer Walsh, nurse, 2 technicians, 2 assistants. The robotic system was tested, and the gene therapy serum was prepared. Dr. Chen, said Dr. Torres, this system will be used for the first time on such a young patient. Are you absolutely sure you're ready? Michael, I've been preparing for this for the past 5 years. The system is in perfect condition. Emma, added Dr. Kim, there's a lot of media interest. They want an interview. No, this is not a demonstration, it's a treatment. No media until the surgery is over. The night before the surgery, I stayed at the hospital. At 3 a.m., I encountered Professor Anderson in the hallway. "Can't you sleep?" I asked. "No, neither can you, I suppose. I never sleep before surgery." We sat silently side by side. "Emma," Professor Anderson said, "if it fails tomorrow, it won't fail. But if it does, I want you to know, I'll never blame you. You're doing everything you can." "Professor Anderson, 20 years ago you told me I wouldn't succeed. Now, in the irony of life, your daughter's life is in my hands. I know. Fate has played a cruel joke. But I'll prove something to you. I'm not just a successful surgeon, I'm also a compassionate human being." "Emma, you've already proven that. Coming here, I'll save your daughter, Professor Anderson. Not for you, but for her." We didn't sleep that night. We waited for morning. At 6 a.m., I saw the people arriving at the hospital. The surgery was scheduled to begin at 8 a.m. I said goodbye to little Emma. "Dr. Chen, I'm scared," she said for the first time. "It's normal to be scared, Emma, but I'm here with you. Trust me." "Will I be better when I wake up?" "I'll do my best. I'll work hard while you sleep." "Okay, I trust you." Professor Anderson kissed his daughter one last time. "Dad, don't worry. Dr. Chen will make me better." "I know, baby. You're very strong." At 8 a.m., I entered the operating room. An 8-hour difficult operation was about to begin. "Is the team ready?" I asked. "We're ready, Dr. Chen," everyone said in unison. "Then let's begin. We're going to save this little girl's life." Anesthesia was administered. The robotic system was activated. 3D imaging began. "Dr. Chen, the tumor is clearly visible," said the technician. "Perfect. I'm making the first incision." The final test of a 20-year journey had begun. Little Emma Anderson's life was in my hands, and I was determined to save her. "No matter the cost, the first incision is complete," I said into the microphone. "Robotic system in optimal position." The operating room was filled with state-of-the-art equipment. 4K cameras, robotic arms, real-time MRI imaging, all working to save little Emma Anderson's life. "Dr. Chen, vital signs are stable," said Dr. Torres from the anesthesia corner.
Excellent. I'm starting the craniotomy.
Every second of this surgery was critical. The tumor was very close to the brainstem, and even the slightest tremor could spell disaster. "Sarah," I called to my assistant, Dr. Kim, "activate the 3D imaging. We need to see the exact boundaries of the tumor." On the screen in front of us, a perfect image of little Emma's brain appeared. The tumor was almost completely enveloping the brainstem. "Emma, this looks very difficult," Dr. Kim said quietly. "The difficulty level is high, but it's not impossible. Thanks to the precision of the robotic system, we can work with millimeter accuracy." When we reached the tumor, we encountered the first problem. The tumor had spread over a wider area than expected. "Dr. Chen, the tumor margins are 20% wider than the MRI images," said the technician. I paused. This would extend the surgery time and increase the risk. "Alternatives?" "We could perform a partial resection and target the remaining portion with gene therapy," suggested Dr. Kim. "No, total resection is essential. Gene therapy is only 100% effective if the tumor is completely removed. But the risk? The risk is calculated. We're proceeding." Thanks to the robotic system, I began working with 0.5 mm precision. Every movement was the result of thousands of hours of experience. "Dr. Chen, we've reached the main feeding artery," said Dr. Kim. This was the most critical moment. We needed to cut the tumor's main feeding artery, but this artery supplied critical areas of the brain. "Prepare the microvascular clamps. We'll perform temporary clamping." "Emma, what if this artery is damaged?" "It won't be, because I've been preparing for this for 20 years. Using robotic arms, I temporarily clamped the artery. Timing was critical, maximum 3 minutes. "Start the stopwatch," I said. "Counting down 3 minutes," said the technician. In those 3 minutes, I removed 60% of the tumor. Thanks to the robotic system, I worked with a precision that human hands couldn't achieve. "I'm releasing the clamp," I said. "Vital signs?" "Vitals are stable, brain activity is normal," said Dr. Torres. We had overcome the first major obstacle. 5.5 hours had passed, but we couldn't afford to stop. We had removed 75% of the tumor, but the hardest part remained. "Dr. Chen, you need to rest," said Jennifer Walsh, the nurse. "No rest, Jennifer. Little Emma is waiting." At that moment, I saw Professor Anderson through the operating room window. He had been waiting there for 5.5 hours, never leaving. "Sarah, the last 25% is the most critical part. It's very close to the speech center. How are we going to approach it?" "Very slowly, very carefully. If we damage the speech center, Emma won't be able to speak." When we reached the final part of the tumor, we encountered the biggest problem. The tumor had penetrated directly into the speech center. "Emma, this is impossible," said Dr. Kim. "Removing this part is too risky."
Sarah, the word impossible isn't in my vocabulary.
"But there's an 80% risk of damaging the speech center." I paused. This was a critical decision. If I left this part of the tumor, the gene therapy would only be 40% effective. If I removed it, either it would be completely successful, or Emma would lose her ability to speak. In that moment, I remembered that day 20 years ago, Professor Anderson's words. "You'll never make it, Emma." "Sarah, I've worked 20 years for this moment. There's no turning back." I set the robotic system to its most precise mode. I was now working at 300% magnification. "Dr. Chen, this is incredible precision," said the technician. 0.1 millimeter precision. Very slowly, very carefully, I was separating the tumor tissue from the healthy tissue. It was the most intense 20 minutes of my life. "The last piece is coming out," I said. And finally, the last piece of the tumor came out. "Dr. Chen, the tumor is 100% removed," said Dr. Kim. "Vital signs, neurological functions, all normal. Incredible." At that moment, the entire surgical team applauded. But the real test was yet to come. "We're now moving on to the gene therapy phase," I said. "A specially prepared serum injection. This serum targeted any remaining microscopic tumor cells. It was the result of 6 months of laboratory work." "Dr. Chen, the serum is being injected into the brain cavity," said Dr. Kim. "Perfect. Let's begin closing the brain." The closure process took 2 hours. Every stitch, every detail had to be perfect. "The final stitch is being placed," I said at 5. The 8-hour surgery was complete. But the real test would be Emma's awakening. "Emma, can you hear me?" I asked the little girl. Her eyes slowly opened. She looked confused but alive. "Doctor," she said in a clear voice. At that moment, the entire surgical team cheered with joy. She could speak, and her neurological functions were normal. "Emma, how do you feel?" "My head hurts a little. But I'm okay." "Where's my grandfather?" "He'll be here soon. You're a very brave girl, Emma." Professor Anderson rushed into the operating room. His eyes were filled with tears. "Emma, my baby." "Grandpa, Dr. Chen healed me." Professor Anderson turned to me. He couldn't find the words. "Dr. Chen, how can I thank you?" "Not now, Professor Anderson. Let's focus on your recovery first." Little Emma was recovering at an amazing rate. All the tests were perfect. The tumor was completely gone. "Dr. Chen," said little Emma, "I'm completely better now, aren't I?" "Yes, Emma, you're completely healthy now, but we'll need to keep coming in for checkups." "Of course, I'm your special patient now." Professor Anderson came to the hospital every day. He couldn't believe his daughter was getting better. The day of Emma's discharge arrived. All the tests were perfect. "Dr. Chen," said little Emma, "I'll miss you when I go home." "I'll miss you too, Emma, but you can go back to your normal life now. When I grow up, I'm gonna be a doctor. Just like you. You can be anything you want, Emma. Don't let anyone ever tell you you can't." Professor Anderson wanted to speak with me one last time. We sat in the hospital garden. Little Emma was waiting in the car. "Emma," said Professor Anderson, "I don't know how to thank you. You saved my daughter's life." "Professor Anderson, I was just doing my job." "No, it was much more than that. You showed me mercy. And yet There's something I need to tell you, Professor Anderson." "What is it?" "Don't apologize." He was stunned. "Why?" "Because you gave me the greatest gift. You made me strong. If you had supported me at Stanford, maybe I wouldn't have been this determined." "I don't understand." 20 years ago, you told me you'll never make it. Today, I saved your daughter's life. I did it. His eyes filled with tears. But I made you pay a heavy price for it. Yes. But in the end, here I am, a world-renowned surgeon saving thousands of lives, contributing to science. Without your words, I might not be this strong. Emma, you are an incredible person. You have a character far greater than mine. Professor Anderson, there's one last thing I want to say to you. Yes? This wasn't revenge, it was justice. You committed an injustice, and I restored justice. By saving your daughter, I settled the score for the past. I understand. So what now? Now we all move on with our lives. You'll be a good grandfather. Emma will grow up. I'll keep saving lives. So is there peace between us? Professor Anderson, there's nothing between us now. No enmity, no friendship, only the past remains. Little Emma came in for her 6-month checkup. She was completely healthy, running and playing like a normal child. Dr. Chen, I have something very special for you, Emma said. She was holding a drawing of herself as a doctor. This is the future Dr. Emma, inspired by you, I said. Yes, when I grow up, I'll save lives like you. Professor Anderson came over. Dr. Chen, Emma has decided to make a donation to Stanford University. A scholarship will be established in your name. I was surprised. What do you mean? The Emma Chen Scholarship for underprivileged medical students, a full scholarship for students with financial difficulties. This was an unexpected gift. Professor Anderson, this wasn't necessary. Emma, it was necessary. I can't fully compensate you for the pain I caused you. But at least I can prevent other talented students like you from suffering. This means a lot, thank you. On the last day of the year, I received the Medical Hero of the Year award. Little Emma's case had made a breakthrough in the medical world. My speech at the award ceremony. Dear colleagues, this award is not just for me. This award is a response to everyone who said I couldn't do it. This award is dedicated to all young doctors who never give up. Among the audience, I saw Professor Anderson. He was clapping. After the ceremony, he came over to me. Emma, your speech was very moving. Thank you. I want to tell you something. You deserved this award, because you are a real doctor. Professor Anderson, every doctor tries to heal their patients. No, Emma, you heal both their bodies and their souls. You healed my soul too. With the new year, I decided to establish my own research institute. The Chen Institute for Advanced Neuroscience would be the first center of its kind in the world. When selecting my first students, I chose talented candidates who were in difficult circumstances. Dr. Chen, said my new student Marcus Thompson, I don't understand why you gave me a chance. My grades aren't great, I don't have any money. Marcus, I was once like you. What matters is your potential and determination. We'll figure out the rest together. My first task was to teach these young people not just medicine, but also trust. Little Emma came to the clinic to celebrate my 9th birthday. Dr. Chen, I brought you a birthday present. She held a small flower in her hand. That's very nice, Emma. Thank you. Dr. Chen, I have a secret for you. What is it? I'm really going to be a doctor, and my first patient will be my grandfather, and I'll heal his heart.
Why is his heart sick?
Because he's always sad. He can't forgive himself for what they did to him. These innocent words deeply moved me. Emma, tell your grandfather that the past is in the past. Let's focus on the future now. Okay, I'll tell him that. Professor Anderson came alone. He looked very old. Dr. Chen, I wanted to thank you one last time. Why the last time? Because I won't bother you anymore. I've paid my debt. Professor Anderson, you never paid your debt. He was surprised. What do you mean? The scholarship fund, Emma's treatment? No. Your real debt was something else. What was it? Believing in me. And you didn't pay that because it's no longer necessary. I believe in myself now. He laughed. You still surprise me, Emma. Professor Anderson, there's one last thing I want to tell you. I'm listening. I forgive you. He froze. Really? Yes. 'Cause holding on to anger is exhausting. I just want to focus on healing now. His eyes filled with tears. Emma, are you an angel? No. I'm just a person who has learned to turn pain into kindness. Little Emma's annual checkup went perfectly. She was completely healthy. Dr. Chen, I'm a big girl now, said Emma. Yes, you've grown so much. Will you remember me when I grow up? Emma, you're my most special patient. I'll never forget you. I won't forget you either. You're my hero. These innocent words made me forget all the pain of the 20-year struggle. At the end of the year, I evaluated my achievements. 50 surgeries, all successful. 8 scientific articles. 25 young doctors, mentored. 1 little girl's life saved. 1 old enemy reconciled. Most importantly, my inner peace was intact. Today, I received an invitation from Stanford University. They want me to give a guest lecture. The topic, From Failure to Success, A Neurosurgeon's Journey. The irony is that I will be giving the lecture in Professor Anderson's old office. I accepted the invitation because I am now ready to return to Stanford. But this time, as the winner, the young girl who was expelled from there 20 years ago, labeled a failure, is now returning as a world-renowned surgeon. The moral of this story is, sometimes life knocks us down, but the real test is how we get back up. I got back up. I stood on my feet. And I didn't just stand there, I rose to great heights. Professor Anderson told me 20 years ago, you will never succeed. Today I can tell him, you were right, Professor. I didn't succeed. I went beyond success. And little Emma Anderson, the innocent girl I saved, is growing up. Maybe she'll become an even greater doctor than me in the future. The best part of this story is that I didn't seek revenge. I sought justice. And knowing that difference makes me a true winner. Life sometimes delivers justice in the most unexpected ways. It may take 20 years, but in the end the deserving prevail. I am not the young girl who was rejected 20 years ago. I am Dr. Emma Chen, a surgeon who saves lives, gives hope, and brings justice. And that is enough. My speech at Stanford University will end with this message to the next generation of doctors. Remember, young people, everyone who underestimates you may be wrong, but the moment you underestimate yourself, you prove them right. Never give up, because the greatest victory is achieving the impossible. And Professor Anderson, who is 75 years old, will also hear this speech. Perhaps it will be the proudest moment of his life, watching the student he once rejected speak at the world's most prestigious podium. Because that is true justice, responding to evil with goodness, to hatred with mercy, and to injustice with success. This is not the end of the story, but a new beginning.